When Black Americans are looking to retire outside of the United States, there are some things that we are looking for that I think are in addition to some of our counterparts. Number one, of course, we're looking for cost of living, we're looking for quality of life, we're looking for all the usual things. But then we go a little deeper. We have to go a little deeper, and we're looking for racial equality as much as that can be a thing, because the longer I live, okay, the more I realize that there are more good people and good places in the world than not. And I also learn at the same time that there are still those racial tensions, discriminations, intolerances that I think Black people are just subjected to a lot. Um, but I don't want to paint a grim picture, because the picture is not grim. Okay, but it is something, especially for Americans, it is something that is top of mind when we're talking about thinking about planning to relocate outside of the United States, because we don't want to jump out of the how do they say it, jump out of the frying pan into the kitchen, jump out of the kitchen into the front. You know what I'm saying? It's something that's top of mind. And no matter where we have lived in the United States, just because of how the United States is formed and all of its ills, right? I think there is a certain trauma that we have even when we don't recognize it. Okay. So when we're looking to relocate, we don't want to run into the same things. We don't want to have the same scenarios. So why am I saying all this? Okay. What am I talking about? So when we start this planning, all of us, we run across some of the same resources. We're usually all in the same groups. The aspiring expat group, the aspiring digital nomad space, when it comes to Black Americans, is large. And we are usually in some of the same spaces. So if we're looking at, we're seeing familiar names and comments and so forth, right? Um, but then and then when we look at some of the resources, okay, one that I am going to talk about today is International Living, because they came up with their 2025, and it's not new, but this, I just feel like speaking on it today, their list of top 10 places to retire for 2025, right? And it dawned on me, that's like a starting point for us. We look at that because it's some good information that publication gives us, right? But it's not we can't stop there. That particular publication isn't really addressing all of the concerns that we have, but it's a good starting point. So I wanted to look at their top 10, and I wanted to kind of add some comments to it, I guess. Okay. So I am going to find it and pull it up. I should have had it up already. Okay. All right. La, la, la. So when we look at this list, and I'm going to start with in a descending order. So I'm going to start with 10. 10 being Thailand, that's on the list, top place to retire. Thailand is probably going to stay on somebody's top list, if for no other reason, it's going for cost of living, right? Um, so number 10, Thailand. Oh yeah, and this reminds me, I'm going to actually read this part. This was written by Bart Walters, and I just thought that this was a good opening. So he starts it by saying, "Do you want to really get away? For Americans, Thailand is as far as you can go without starting to come back." I'm not gonna lie, just with the first sentence, that gave me a little laugh. Okay, all right, that's neither here or there. Okay, so capital is Bangkok. Um, he's saying you can live in the heart of the city. You can do a $600 a month rental in the heart of the city of Bangkok. You can eat off of $15 a day, spend less than $100 a month on transportation. There's a lot of fiscal reasons, and and more that attract people to Thailand. Then he's talking about some of the places that are close by, like Chiang Mai, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Phuket. Um, he's going into food. A lot of good information. Healthcare is, he's saying, is not that great. um Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry. And we're talking about Thailand, so I should have known not to say that because I know a thing or two. Okay. So healthcare is good in Thailand. All right. So let me make that correction. All righty. So all good things about Thailand. But what do we do with that information? We normally got to dig a little bit deeper, right? We normally got to dig a little bit deeper. All right. So now let me bounce over to my Google Doc, okay, my Google spreadsheet, because I have spreadsheets, I have docs, I gather so much information. Then when I go to places, I add to my research and whatever. I don't know what I'm going to do with all this information. One day I may write a book, okay. But let me just give you some additional information that may interest you in the diaspora if you're thinking about Thailand, okay. When it comes to expat groups, there is a Black expat group there called Brothers and Sisters of Bangkok. Okay, Brothers and Sisters of Bangkok. Um, and so that is a group that you can get with. There is a neighborhood in Bangkok that is popular among Black expats, and forgive me if I mispronounce this, Sukhumvit, Sukhumvit. I will see if I can get that put somewhere on the screen for you. Okay. Um, but I hear it's just a popular area with Black expats. As is, there was another one that I heard of that's not written here. Ari, a neighborhood in Bangkok called Ari, Ari. Okay, some people on the ground did tell me about that neighborhood. Um, Notes that I have here: while Thailand is very very welcoming, um, there's and I think I can say this. This is probably going to be the case, a potential for a lot of areas when it comes to, you've heard this term, we've all heard this term, microaggressions. When it comes to microaggressions as we navigate the world, because we're everywhere, we've been, okay, when it comes to microaggressions, sometimes, you know, there's backdrops to it, there's different scenarios, there's blatant racism, there can be a lot of information that we see or don't see, or what have you. So I'm just of the mind, that if I feel like I'm being faced with a quote unquote racist microaggression from someone, it's almost like I'm trying to think of how I've dealt with it if I ran into it. I'll tell you a place, just to kind of come off topic of Thailand for a second. I ran into it in Italy. It wasn't completely overt, but I did a little test in Italy, and I may have spoke on this in another video, where where I spent when I first arrived in Rome. Let me tell you specifically where I was. I had my braids, had my cornrow, had my little braid style, doing me, and I could. I started feeling like I was sensing little things. You're picking up on little things, but you're not trying to read anything into it. But I'm also traveling solo, and I'm very, very observant. I love people watching. I will park myself at a cafe or on a bench and people watch, or get me a gelato and people watch for a couple of hours and just observe. And so I did start seeing that, how Africans, people who you can tell are from the motherland, how they are treated. I'm watching the subtleties. I'm watching. And so I decided to um, spend a day at the hotel, a whole goddamn day, taking my braids out, washing my hair, blowing it out, doing the flat iron, threw on my red, white, and blue USA t shirt, frequented the same neighborhood, the same cafes, and so forth. And let me tell you, my experience, if had that been the way I presented myself on day one, my experience in my first week would have been completely different. Okay. And so I distinctly saw and experienced firsthand the difference, the subtle differences in how you are treated when you are Black American versus Black directly from the continent of Africa. They I experienced it. I saw, I was like, wow. Okay. So, these microaggressions, these little things can happen anywhere. And there has been, um and this is hearsay that I've heard, little tiny things in Thailand, but overall not bad. Now, if I were going to discuss these places, I should have put this disclaimer at the top. If I were going to discuss these places specifically as it relates to women and women's rights and family, things like that, this would be a different message. That's all I'm going to say because I don't want to get too far off the topic that I want to talk about in this video. So that's all I'm going to say. As for a video where I talk specifically about women, okay, and women of color, then that's going to be another video. All right. I'm going to stay on topic. So Thailand, yeah, there are a couple of neighborhoods. We do have a presence there. Thailand is nothing new for digital nomads or potential expats. It's not a new discovery. Okay. But this is about, us wanting to some additional information before we think it's for us, right? Okay, the next place that I'm going to go down the list that international living is saying is Italy. Um, and I think your experience of Italy depends on where you go in Italy, quite honestly. Italy is a very interesting country to me, and I still have so many places that I yet want to visit there. I think their history is particularly, yeah, just interesting. It's a lot of stuff in there. A lot of stuff in there, stuff from Africa, from Greece, from the French. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff in there. From the Turks, it's just a lot of stuff. Of course, there are some, I think it's some wonderful places, and we've heard some wonderful stories of Black Americans going there and buying some of those cheaper homes. They have a lot of programs to go over there, excuse me, and buy and rehab a home. I think there's a lot of potential for us there. I really do. Um, I really, yeah, just overall, and what I've heard from people I've ran into, from people in other expat groups, everything that I've heard, I just think there's a lot of potential in Italy. I think what I would say when it comes to Italy, and I would say this for most places, every place when we are leaving the United States, is be mindful to not move there and try to bring America with you. Move there and get into the culture and the people. Slow it down and learn the language and learn the culture and enjoy it and absorb it. I would say that for any place. I think that's the difference in how we experience a place, right? And when we're thinking about actually retiring somewhere, we're not trying to bring the US crap with us. We're looking for different. I think there's some places in Italy that are really really good. Now let me look at my notes and give you some neighborhoods that I have on my doc sheet. Okay, for Italy, I have neighborhoods Florence and Rome for creatives, Puglia. Puglia and Sicily, in terms of affordability and rich culture. Italy's North African connections go as far back as ancient Rome, and places like Sicily reflect Moorish influence. And so consider exploring places like, hope I pronounced this correctly, Mazzara del Vallo, Mazzara del Vallo, Vallo. Okay, it's a town. Apparently, I got this in parentheses. That's rich in Arab African history. Okay, there are black-owned businesses, around Italy, and they do have. I got this as a note. Was I supposed to try this place? Gilda's, a black owned hair salon in Milan. I have this as a try this place. Okay. There is a Facebook group, Black Women in Italy. Okay, that you can join. All right, let's keep it pushing. All right, Greece. Greece is on the international living list. Places like Corfu. We hear about that a lot. That's not new. Let's not spend time there. We know the cost of living is is good there. We know the healthcare. The things. I think international living gives us a good research starting point. If I didn't say that already, I've always thought that it's a good starting point. It's just not. It's just not the end all place, research place for us. That's all. Okay. Let me see if I have any notes on Greece. It's so funny. I should have. I probably could update this because I do have some friends that spent a lot of time in 2024 here. Um, what I have here is a diverse neighborhood called. Oh, I'm gonna botch this up. I'm just gonna make sure this goes on the screen. Exarchia, Exarchia, Exarcha in Athens. You know what? I gotta go to Greece. I gotta spend some time in Greece. My name is Arnitha, and there is a village named Arnitha in the Isle of Rhodes of Greece. And in the center of that village is a piece of the altar from a church that John the Baptist, I think it was John the Baptist. I think, is it John or Saul? John or Saul, one of the churches that he used to go and minister at and preach at. There's a piece of the altar that sits in the town, the village center. The name of the church, whose name I don't have in front of me right now because I'm just kind of recollecting. Okay. Um, the name of the church is a lengthy name, but it has Irene in the name. And my mother's name happens to have been Irene. And so on my list of travels, on my bucket list of travels to Greece, is to also go to Rose. Now, from what I understand, it's going to be a few, modes of transportation to get right into the village of Arnitha. But I just thought that was, it's been on my list. And yeah. So, back to what I was saying. Um, Greece's ancient ties to Nubia and North Africa are reflected in artifacts at the Acropolis Museum. I have the Acropolis Museum and the Benaki Museum as places to also go to when I go there. Um, In terms of Black owned businesses, I have a note here saying that you can, especially if you get with one of the Black expat groups, that there are like pop up shops and cultural festivals that you can tap into while in Greece. Okay. I don't have any notes on tolerance, which is interesting, and get this, when you get this information on whether or not a country is quote unquote tolerant and how is the racism, I implore you to honestly take it with a slight grain of salt, unless we see some severe cases like what we see in the United States. Um, I would say take it with a grain of salt, because sometimes, I'm saying this, sometimes it's isolated incidences. Sometimes it's par for the course of what we just experience as human beings, in this world of being discriminated against. Sometimes I don't want to put more of a highlight on it than needs to be. Okay. And I will also say this: in some places that I've seen other people, they share their personal experiences, and they've had incidences in some countries, and that I've gone there, or I've been there and stayed there, and don't have any of those experiences. So we're all living our own individual journeys, and we're taking information, you know, um, but take it with a grain of salt. And then I gotta say, there are places that never make these types of lists, especially in terms of them being potentially good places for Black Americans to retire. And I've gone there, and I'm welcomed, and it's wonderful, you know. Which is why, in my helping people plan out their redefining your life to live abroad, RYL abroad, one of the sources that we use inside of RYL abroad, is things like the tolerance index, and what have you. We want to look a little deeper and not limit ourselves. Don't just go to places that, oh, well, here's the top 10 for Black Americans. No, dig a little deeper. Okay. The same thing that we have to do here. This international living list, like, again, is a starting point. It doesn't give everything that we need to know. Let's keep going. Malaysia, Muslim majority country, understand the customs, of course. Now, I have Kuala Lumpur as being, like the hub for expats, for Black expats as well, and Penang, okay, as being a good neighborhoods, good places for us, okay. Let's keep it going to Spain. Of course, yeah, Granada. Granada, you're really going to see a lot of the Moorish influence, and it's going to be a nice mixture. I am I'm falling in love with Granada when it comes to Spain. I love my Costa del Sol, as you know, but and I love Barcelona as well. I love Spain. Spain, there's so much to be explored in Spain, I got to tell you. And one thing that's unique about Spain is that, like, very similar, in my opinion, to Italy, depending on where you go, is going to determine how your experience is. If you stay in Barcelona, of course, you're definitely going to find Black owned businesses. You're going to find Black people. You're going to find African people there. Barcelona is cosmopolitan, as is Costa del Sol. Okay, Costa del Sol does have more UK, Scandinavian. Costa del Sol has the golf courses and everything. So but it is a definite mixture. Granada is even a more mixture. I would say a more a cultural mixture than Costa del Sol. It's more of a mixture similar to Barcelona, I guess. If I was going to compare. Um, I have been welcomed in everywhere I've gone in Spain. I have never had any type of microaggression or anything in Spain. But if you're looking for a place to retire, I'm definitely going to say, um, take into consideration your lifestyle. You will be able to find a lot of different places that you will feel like home. And I don't mean feel like home in terms of like the United States. I mean that you will be able to create a new home for yourself. Okay. Granada, do not overlook Seville and Granada as some potential choices. Okay. In France, we none of us will be surprised. There's a whole thing called Black France, right? There's a lot of tours that happen in France, where you could see Black France. There's a lot of African history tied in with France. I'm not going to get into the colonialization and the political stuff. We know, we know. Yeah. But I think, especially for Black Americans who can speak French, France offers a whole choice of places and to choose from. Okay. And healthcare and all that stuff is going to be good as international life. Let me get back over to what they're saying. I forgot I'm supposed to be looking at what they're saying and then adding my 2 cents on it. So with France, of course, it's going to reference the healthcare system and cost of living. Buying a home is around 34% cheaper, and property taxes are a fraction of what they are in the U.S. Prices are fixed by the government and has not increased since 2010. When it comes to seeing a doctor, they're putting the cost of seeing a doctor around $26. Um, and a specialist around $85, with 70% of costs being reimbursed. Okay. Food. I personally have always had great experiences with food anytime I've been in France. I love the fact that in France you can go into a restaurant, into a nice small restaurant, and the chef that's there is cares so much about the food he's creating. Like, you think you're in a fine dining restaurant with the care that's being taken. I love the fact that a lot of the mom and pop restaurants, they're going to buy their ingredients that morning. Everything is fresh, and just the care. I love that about France. I wish I could speak French. I probably would be very at home in France, quite honestly. Um, let's keep it moving. We only got a couple more. Mexico. Mexico is coming up a lot, a lot. I think I think a black person versus a white person's experience in all of these places are very different, and and same holds true for Mexico. I think Mexico, I've said this in other videos, is a very easy transition in general for Americans. Um, and Black Americans is no different. Okay, let's see if I have Costa Chica and Oaxaca has a large Afro Mexican community. I think we've seen that, right? There is a Black owned business that I have referenced here in Tulum called the Holistic Flow Wellness Retreat. Okay. Um, check that out. I have that on my to go, on my to do list. Maybe I'll do that this year in 2025. Maybe we can meet up there. Let's keep it moving to Costa Rica. Costa Rica, the Caribbean coast, Viejo, strong Afro Caribbean presence there. As we know, Black owned business. I will give you Miss Edith's. I'm giving you my some of my go-tos. Miss Edith's restaurant is on my list to visit there in Puerto Viejo. Miss Edith's restaurant. Okay, I'm not going to go into what international living is saying on Costa Rica, because Costa Rica, Mexico, those are places that are always on top 10 lists. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about Portugal either, because Portugal is on everybody's top 10 list. Portugal, I think, is super popular with Black Americans because of the Black expat presence on the ground. Okay. There is a community waiting for us. I have a lot of customers there as well. Clients, not customers, but I just think it's a easy touchdown for us. I'll say that. It's been so much I've said a lot about Portugal, and as has a lot of other people. We have, we got a little good community going on there, so much so that I've been asked many times, why do I spend so much time in Spain? Why am I rooted in Spain instead of Portugal? And I don't even have an answer for that. I guess I was just drawn to Spain. I went there, and everything just sort of lined up. The ducks just lined up. It always lines up. And yeah, but I'm gonna start exploring Portugal more for myself personally. It might even be the next place that I expand my real estate investments in. Um, it's not off the it's not off my list at all. And then lastly, Panama. Panama, let's not go into a lot of what international living is saying because I would be regurgitating stuff you already know because it's on so many best of top 10 of, for retiring already. So the information is there. My comparative information for Panama would be Panama City is the place that really highlights um, our culture, I guess, if you will. I think a comparison to Panama and Portugal is that both really has on the ground expat groups and just a soft touchdown with our community. You can find meetups and things in both Portugal and Panama. I think so comparatively they compare in that sense. Okay. And Panama, it's an easy retirement solution, just like Mexico because of proximity and because it also, works with the US dollar, things of that nature. So, I guess that's just my little 2 cents in looking at their top 10 list, the things that I would add that are important to us. Alrighty. Um, I would suggest when it comes to looking for the places that you want to retire, keep in mind what I always say when you start out, and this is really in my day one of the 5-day Living Abroad Profile Challenge. I implore everyone, start with building out a living abroad profile for yourself. It becomes your guide, your north star. If you start losing sight of what you said, what found was most important, if you're just getting a little lost, that living abroad profile is always going to keep you centered. So start there. And in day one, I guide you to go deep in yourself so that you know how to find your values and look for countries that are aligned with your values and to look outside of the box. Okay. These are the top 10 countries according to the International Living List for 2025, along with my 2 cents. Um, I will also follow up with a video that speaks specifically, and this is going to help women who are retiring single or widowed, as I am widowed, so I understand that demographic. So let's address some concerns that are specific to us in the next video, okay? I hope you found this helpful, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel. Leave comments so that I can know what your concerns are. I will do my best to speak to them. Join the RYL Abroad group. That's where we go a little deeper in that private community. And ciao.